Welcome back, everyone, to another Funded Trader podcast. In this podcast, you're going to be learning about the story of Cohen. So Cohen has been in Falcon for a good period of time.
This was a great position. I walked away with 11.5%.
This was a lovely trade. He's really put in the work over a number of years, and he's exactly where he is supposed to be.
So I dropped out of college and was working as a bartender at the time. I've dabbled a bit here and there before I took it completely seriously.
You're going to learn a lot from this podcast. This is slightly one of our longer podcasts, yet there's so many gems and there's so much value. Listen all the way through and you're going to learn exactly what you need to do to be in that position.
The fact that I put money into this was kind of a commitment in itself. Like I'm not going to put this money into this if I don't think I'm going to be able to make it as a trader.
The ultimate goal here, guys, is to put yourself in a position amongst the successful traders, and you need to learn the habits, the traits, the mindset, the routines, the processes. I'm incredibly proud of this achievement that he's done, and onwards and upwards as he scales towards 7 figures.
It's been one of the best journeys of my life.
To gain experience in the market. Grateful to be in this position.
9 trades back to back gone, and then that shattered my confidence completely.
You really want to believe something.
There's been some highs, there's been some lows.
I wasn't good at maths, I failed it at college.
I wanted to be a full-time trader by the end of the year.
This is actually possible.
Trading.
All of that euphoric feeling.
You can't stop my trading.
It's just made me a much better trader overall.
Welcome back to another Inside the Mind podcast. Right, Cohen. So before we get into your story, I'm keen to just break down one of your larger trades that you took on the fund, right, that helped with the assessment. And I've got euro dollar here. I remember this trade because this was a missed entry for myself. I know quite a lot of people in the community also took this one, so they'll probably remember. But briefly talk us through this position. I'm going to go and start off on the daily as to why you was looking at this particular trade.
Yeah, so price was...
So it was
price
roughly,
didn't, the price didn't really break the recent low yet on the daily. And we moved back up correctively. And there was a possibility that we might form a free touch structure on the 4 hour, I believe. So I had some trend lines drawn in, but price came to the override.
Do you have this sort of structure in?
A little bit lower. I was expecting a larger pullback, actually.
Yeah, roughly around here. You could probably see it on the lower time frame. Oh, yeah, I see roughly what you're working with.
Yeah, so I was looking at potential higher push for price to push higher to maybe get in on the third touch with a risk entry. But ultimately, we didn't really push further. And if you go to the 1 hour, you can see that there wasn't really a clear rejection of the double top, which is something I actually look for. I look for a strong rejection before I'm considering the flag, because this would be an override area for me to trade short. But instead, price just kept on moving sideways. You can kind of see that the price action was a little bit ascending in that piece that's against the override. So that led me to believe that this might not be sort of a bull flag structure for price to push higher and reach that third touch, so to say. So then in my forecast, I'm really precise with what I would need to see from the market before I'm even considering the entry. And one of those things is if we get that strong rejection, then I can look for a flag. But when price moves sideways like this at the double top, it's not really the best. And the only thing I then consider to take an entry is if we break that area of price action impulsively. So if you go to the 15, so you can see that price is sort of creeping back up towards the area of the double top there. Yeah, exactly. And so I was waiting for price to start that push down, and we have a small 5-minute flag that formed as well, but that was a little bit too aggressive for my taste.
Was that the one just above here?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And this is something that, if we do get a strong rejection, that's a good area for me to look for a 5-minute flag. But since we had not broken that piece of price, that piece of sideways price action yet, I wasn't really looking for the flag yet, so to say.
Yeah. So the low is important to you. You want to basically clear that low.
And that's not always the case, but in this case it is, because we are at the override. And I want to see price sort of showing some type of commitment that the direction is changing, and for that to signal to me that it's okay for that for me to take a short. I want to see an impulsive break of that level. So, it's not too impulsive because we have that 5-minute flag just on the low, but afterwards price did come further down. So that's for me the signal to look for potential entry. Yeah, then price started to pull back a bit and form the 3-touch structure, and it is slightly expanding, but that's in this area. It's not that big of a problem in my opinion. And because we have the 3 touches, and because my stop was so safe above the previous low, that's the reason I got in with the risk entry.
Yeah, nice. This was a mistrade for me. This one I know quite a few people took. I like the mitigation of risk that you factored in, because I remember one of the questions were at the time was you concerned about this, right? And as you just explained, this little consolidation here, it's almost one piece of its own. It's price action above and clearing the low impulsively, done everything that it needed to do because it showed its hand, it showed its commitment, which I think is brilliant. So this was a lovely trade. It could easily go amiss because it's a correction with a correction underneath. So I totally understand the hesitation that some traders may have taken, but risk has been factored in, and there's more than enough confluence that has happened in this trade. What did you walk away with on this?
This was a great position. I walked away with like 11.5% or so.
Lovely.
And the reason, so I don't normally manually close positions. I usually just move my stop along. But in this case, I hit my profit target for the assessment phase. That's one thing. And the other was that we've broken the lows to the left. If I see price was moving very fast towards the downside. So if you that could mean there's also a big pullback coming that might happen also pretty fast. So when price starts to move correctively in the area where I took the profit out of, I think to myself, okay, what is it worth for me to try to stay in the trade? Because this might still go further down. It's not like it's definitely going to reverse back to the upside in this area. That doesn't have to happen. But if I need to leave my stop open for a certain distance, like say 2%, is that 2% worth it to try maybe get 4% more out of the market if price keeps on going? And how likely is that to happen now that we've had this super impulsive candle on the way down? Because the chances are that we are going to see a certain type of pullback, and I don't know how steep that's going to be. So even if price does move down, it might pull back more than 2% and tag me out and then drop down as well. So these are all things like when I'm taking a position, it's really easy to quantify. Like my maximum risk is 1% and my potential profit is like say 6%, just as an example. But if the trade is running, you might leave 2% open on the table for another 1 or 2% for price to fill the gap. So I'm trying to think how I would be trading on a larger account as well, And in that case, I wouldn't leave 2% open in this instance. I just would lock my profit because the trade has done what I expected it to do, so to say.
Yeah,
so
perfect.
I'm really happy with how I managed this, even though it's a bit. It's not that often that I close down trades manually. I'm pretty happy with how I handled this situation. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you've done great, and for the right reasons as well. So, firstly, congrats on the trade, on the emotional side of it, and you touched on some really important points, especially when it comes to the emotion side of thinking about larger capital. And I think it's easier said than done. Everybody knows logically, I would rather make decisions that's going to help me in the future with larger amounts of money, but very few can act on it in the moment consciously. And I think you showed a tremendous amount of emotional intelligence to just recognize, right, this is what I would do. And there's logic behind what you're doing, which I really, really like as well. And that's really great to see.
Yeah, I think that's the important thing is that if I were to decide in the moment itself, that's pretty hard to do because there's money on the line and the market is moving and maybe you don't have enough time to get in with a risk entry or something. There's a bit more stress involved in the moment itself in real time. So if you what I did is, if you see the corrective piece at the double top, just decide beforehand what kind of position you're going to take. So it's basically forecasting. Even during the day, you can forecast certain scenarios, like when the market is changing, how can I adapt to make sure I'm following my plan? And it's a lot easier to do that beforehand, because otherwise you have all the emotions and the stress, and maybe you're not home. So I'm really happy with how I handled this type of position, because it's not really a clear-cut 3-touch correction.
Yeah, there was context behind it, but of course you had to understand exactly why you're doing what you're doing from every detail, from the break of the low, had to be impulsive, lots of different factors, and I really love that. Well, firstly and foremost, Cohen, congratulations on becoming a portfolio asset manager.
Thank you so much.
What a moment for you. So for those that, of course, don't know you yet or haven't heard about your story, maybe those that have not, engaged with you even in the community, I know you like to keep yourself to some degree. Let us know a little brief overview of your story, how you got into trading and how you're feeling right now becoming a portfolio asset manager. How many assessments, really quickly, did you take until you passed?
So this is my third assessment. I passed the third assessment. So
Nice. So it's always good to note that, because listen, sometimes people go through the first time, and then if they fail a couple of times, they get a bit disappointed. But look, this is your third time, you got it done. Talk to us about your story.
Yeah, it's also really clear that the third time I didn't really hesitate to do a third assessment, because it was so clear what I've learned from the first two.
Nice.
That's really important to look at it as an opportunity to to learn from, and not necessarily, okay, I hope I'm gonna make it. That's not really the right attitude, I think, towards that. So, but to start with, how I got into trading in the first place. So I was a while ago, I was actually looking through my old emails, and I found out I knew about Forex 10 years ago. Was when I first heard about the retail markets for Forex. So and I don't mean to be discouraging or anything, but it's not like I've been a trader for 10 years. It's more like, I've dabbled a bit here and there before I took it completely seriously. But at the time I was in college, and that wasn't really working out. I was studying music. Music has always been a big thing in my life. But that wasn't really working out. And so I dropped out of college and was working as a bartender at the time, which was loads of fun. Met a lot of really cool people and lifelong friends there. But, it's clear that you're not going to be bartending till you're 60, So I was like, what am I going to do? I just want to make music, but I don't really want to be dependent on an income from music. That wasn't really my path, I think. And by coincidence, I found out about trading. And on the surface, it might seem like, you press a few buttons and then money comes out of the computer. And of course, it's not nearly that simple. It's one of the hardest things I've ever encountered, to be honest. But I was really intrigued by it, because it was so different from like a normal job. And it took me a while to really believe I could do it. I could be a trader. And I remembered like doing a course and paying money to do the course, which was a big step for me. It wasn't even that expensive. I think $200 or something. But the fact that I put money into this was kind of a commitment in itself. Like, I'm not going to put this money into this if I don't think I'm going to be able to make it as a trader, so to say. And I think that's really important to kind of commit to yourself to make it work, because you're going to struggle a lot. At least I did. So I traded with that system for a while. So support and resistance type of strategy. And it wasn't really working out for me. I believe I could be profitable with that strategy, but I don't think it was quite the right fit for me. And then I found Falcon through a friend of mine. And I was very hesitant to switch my strategy up. it's really clear that it's not the best idea to find like the best strategy that works all the time, because you're gonna skip around a lot, you're gonna hop around a lot and try different things and not stick to one thing that you master. So I was a bit hesitant to switch over. But I joined Falcon in, I believe, July of 2019 it was, I think. And it just was such a good fit for me. It was like a bit more discretionary, but in the right way. So it's a bit hard to explain, but it just made so much more sense to me than trading only horizontal support and resistance levels, right? And I remember demo trading for a month and then starting on a live account in August. And the first trade I took, I remember this very, very well. I was on 0.1% risk back then because I wanted to get to know the strategy first. But the first real position I took on a real account was dollar yen short in 2019, which dropped out for like 12 or 13% or something, which was twice the amount I've ever made on the position before that point. So I was like, okay, there's no go back anymore.
Of course.
This just works a lot better for me and my style of trading. And of course, it's not, big disclaimer, it's not the big trades that make a difference, I believe. And that's something I've had to learn over the course of the years as well, is that you can aim for those big trades. And sometimes they do happen, the plus 8% trades. But that's not where you get the consistency from. Because
exactly,
if you focus on like entries are so much more important than management. You just learn from experience, and there's always it's likely that you could have done something differently to make more money with management. That's always going to be the case. But if you get your entries right, that's like 80% of the work, I think. And that also means that you take less losses because you can more easily manage the trades you're in. And those types of positions that, you take a break even or maybe 1% profit instead of that loss, that's going to add up. Because over a year, that might be like 20 or 30 trades that your outcome is just a little bit better than if you would take that loss. And that's 20 or 30% added to your account a year. And a bit of a tangent there, but it took me a while to learn that it's not just about the big positions, even though that's social media and everything. It's like, look at this profit I made. It's more about the consistency and the process, and
that's what builds it. That's what builds it at the end of the day. I see those bigger trades like the 11%, the 8%, sometimes 17%, whatever it is. These are like the bonuses, the cherry on the top for doing the right thing.
Exactly. Yeah,
you're doing the right thing to, don't underestimate the 3%, the 4%, and you kind of do it with that mindset that sometimes you're in a trade that you kind of don't really expect that's going to hit that sort of level, and you're just ready to manage the trade. It just happens to be running at 8%. I just see those as the bonus trades, but it doesn't build your consistency, as you said.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's just, if you're positioned correctly, they just happen sometimes, but it's not something to chase. It's better to focus on the entries. And then the profits will come eventually. Exactly.
Well, this is why 47% to 960K. You're very aware of what's in front of you, right? When you can double up, you can see how it can start to change very, very quickly. So for yourself now being a portfolio asset manager, talk to us about the feeling of getting to that next stage, because I do believe a lot of traders are under the impression that you're probably the finished article if you get to the next stage and everything will be perfect and smooth and there'll be no emotions and no anxiety. So I'm just curious from you to give them an insight from what they can expect to experience.
That's definitely not the case. It's not like I view myself as this super well-defined trader and that I can't do no wrong or anything. It's definitely not that. There's been some more anxiety since I've passed the funds, just because it's a new level of responsibility as well towards you guys, towards the fund. I'm playing with the big boys now, so to say. So it's just I had to get used to that. Yeah, yeah. I'm doing okay now. But like the first few positions, I was making kind of sloppy rookie mistakes. You know, not big mistakes, but I was like, what's going on? Because I know, I've been trading for so long. I know what I should be doing and how I should be trading. There's no real big problems with my trading right now, I would say. But there's still some things that creep back in that I wasn't expecting, actually, because I've just been visualizing that moment so much that I didn't really expect to be so anxious at the start. But it's all good. It's just an opportunity to learn as well, and to take a step back and see where that comes from, what I can do about it. So I'm going back through Rewired again right now, and also maybe it's a sign as well that I need to be more clear about where I'm going and be really detailed with my plan for the future. Because this is my third assessment, so basically the past 2 years I've been really focused on, okay, I have to get to that next level, and now that I'm there, I'm like, okay, so what do I do now? And that's a bit strange, because of course I know what to do, and I know where I want to go, and I know I want to scale up, but it's just it's a big milestone, and it's pretty normal that there are some nerves involved with that, so I'm not too worried about it, but it was surprising for me.
At least we can confirm you're not an alien, and you are human. You have emotion. So you are from planet Earth, and this is so important for you to embrace and go through. And I think you touched on something really important, because you always get two sides of it, is what I notice with traders. You have traders that they get to the next level, but they don't really have an expectation, or they expect they're going to be nervous and have emotions after they pass. And then you get the other side of the coin, where they almost have an expectation that they don't think that they're going to be phased as they get with more capital. And then because they don't believe that they'll be phased, they end up becoming phased when they get to it's almost like, I don't expect to be anxious. But honestly, sometimes the best way that you can deal with every level up, right, because there's always going to be different emotions that come with more amounts of money, is not really have too much expectation on whether you're going to be okay with it or whether you're not. It's more so going back to what you just said. Maybe it's a reason for me to be clearer, because I can assure you this, the clearer on where you're going, the more affirm and the more centered you are in your identity, you won't need to try to figure out whether you're going to be okay with it or not. You just will, because that feeling will be so present when you get to the next level. It's almost damage control. I think this is a really good topic to talk about briefly. It's the weathering the storm. So let's say, what's your next double? Where will you be trading at? How much account size?
My next double would be 120K.
Yeah. So you'll hit the 6-figure mark at 120. Let's say 120. 120 might go smooth for you. You might just think, this is kind of didn't have an expectation, but now I've gone through it. I've felt the emotions. Maybe for one day, you might feel those emotions, right? Or maybe even a week. And you'll find you'll get to a point that it might be 240. It might be 480, that something comes in that could wobble you, right? And it could happen to any trader. It doesn't matter how good you are. You just have to be aware already that how can I weather the storm if that was to happen? And as long as you can do that, and usually you can do it through risk, usually you can do it through the self-awareness to realize, right, I don't seem to be in the right state. So maybe until I can get myself in the right state with this amount of money, probably not a good idea for me to just start taking random trades, and then lead into self-sabotage. So I think for yourself, Cohen, you've got here deliberately. I mean, even as we broke down the position, there was nothing, wishy-washy about it. It was clear on what you want to see. So always remind yourself with the level of intention that has got you here. That served me very well, and many other successful traders that have gone to the next levels. I've often found they've reaffirmed to themselves how they got to where they were, because it's almost like that motivation of, I didn't get there by accident. So then how could you be unconfident?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah. And I do think that self-sabotage is something I've struggled with a lot. That's really, I think, the main reason why I didn't pass the second time I did the assessment actually, because I think everybody has their story, everybody has their own backpack with their experiences and everything, and as did I. And I just noticed that during the second assessment, I was up in profit a lot. I was about to pass, and I just started focusing way too much on getting to the 30 trading days. That's the minimum, and I was telling to myself, well, I need to stick to the same risk, because I need to prove to myself that I can do this. And that is, I was just just even hearing myself say it now, it's just so ridiculous, because I know I can trade well. I know what to do. Like I said, I found a way to kind of distrust myself, to prevent myself from getting to the success. And that's a really nasty thing, because that can occur very very in the background. You're not that conscious of it when those thoughts can occur, and maybe they influence you to take riskier decisions, or maybe maybe they make you stay out of a position, or it's really sneaky, the type of thoughts that can creep in and just mess up your plan, because that's the strange thing. I believe that technical analysis is pretty easy to learn for anybody. Anybody can learn how to analyze a pattern and how to time the entry. I think that's inherently not that hard to learn. There are some things that you need to take care of in that case, but the psychological aspect of being in a trade, that's something that is way more complicated. I think that's the 80% of what makes trading so hard, is how can you make sure that you always make the right decision, no matter the market conditions, no matter how you are feeling. And yeah, to me, that's so fascinating about trading, because that was also something that I didn't really expect when I started out. Mm-hmm. Because I've always been pretty visually strong, like geometrics and stuff that's comes a bit easy to me. And then I thought, okay, so this is going to be a walk in the park with the graphs and the price going up and down, and I'll do this, this is fine. And it's just way harder, and I had to learn so much about myself, and that's so crazy to me, because it's just some lines going up and down, but it's crazy how much you can learn about yourself and about I even do, like, unconsciously, and I do risk management when I think about crossing the street when the light's on red. It's crazy. There's small things, but also really big things, like relationships and stuff. It's you learn so much by trading, and that I never expected that before I started. So.
I'm right there with you. I didn't expect it either. I don't think many people do, but when you get to a good level, you start to realize how much benefit you get from becoming a trader. This is why I encourage a lot of people to learn how to trade, because you learn a lot about yourself. And as you said about, realizing how much mindset is important and how easy that you can train. Like my nephew, right? I could train him to read the chart, with enough time. He may not be as competent, because he's only 6 years old. However, with enough time, by the age of, give it till he was 10. If I just said, look, right, from 6 till 10, you're just going to listen to my webinars, you're just going to just tune in. By 10 years old, he would have a very good understanding from, 3 touch here with this. They learn fast, right? Their minds are very malleable. But it would be his emotions, and sometimes with a lack of emotion, because they don't really know responsibility too much and consequence of money. He might even make more money. So maybe I'll set him up with the trading account. But the point being, you realize how it's just up and down. It's just sideways price action. It's actually very simple when it comes to the level of understanding of an entry. Mm-hmm. When you really think about it, it's like, right, that touches that 1, 2, 3 times. And the shape of the candle is red and it's full instead of with a wick. When it comes to the actual knowledge of that, it's not that difficult, but your emotional state to get yourself in the right state. And you mentioned about deception earlier. I mean, deception wouldn't be deception if it was obvious. You said it's a little bit sneaky. And I think that's so important that you touched on to be aware of, because you don't realize you do it. and it's so subtle as to how, like, for example, you found yourself almost trying to prove yourself to yourself. It's almost like you was trying to give yourself reassurance. And by doing that, you chip away at your own confidence. Versus why I always go to that, you have to deliberately remind yourself as to why you're in the position that you're in, as almost like a risk strategy plan to not deceive yourself. That's why I do it all day, every day. I'm always reminding myself as to, like, why did I get to this position? Why do I have these businesses, these investments? I have to constantly remember, because no one's immune to it. Doesn't matter how successful you are, you can't allow your ego to override that and think you're invincible. And then now you've figured out all the answers. Even when you're making a lot of money, I'm still aware of that to just remind myself. I mean, because the universe can humble you very, very quickly.
Definitely, yeah. And there's another side to that as well, because I think, for example, with this assessment that I've now passed, I noticed that very quickly these thoughts came that I was just lucky, and that's just not really that's just ridiculous if you think about it, because I've been going at it for so long. I've passed, I believe it was 9 trades till I hit the profit target.
Yes, roughly around then, yeah.
I think 2.5 months or so. I was pretty quickly through the assessment. Yeah. And that's not because I was lucky or very, very risky, or I took a lot of positions. I just traded my plan, and it was a good period, but that's not the reason I passed. It's because I know how to trade. So those thoughts, it's interesting because those thoughts and those feelings, they come and go, and it's not really something you can control all the time. It's good to remind yourself of why you've made it this far, so to say, like that you can really find the words. Like you just said, it's good to remind yourself that you are here because you've put in the effort. But still, though, sometimes those thoughts that you're not worthy, or that they can come like creeping back in, and it's just good to be aware of it. I hate the term they use, like you should be trading like a robot. It's so ridiculous to me, because if that was the case, if that was sort of the answer, then computers would be trading like amazingly all the time. We wouldn't have to be doing this, there wouldn't be a point to it. So you have to have some type of discretion in that sense. But to think that you don't experience any emotions when you see price going up or down, or maybe if you've missed a position, it's good to have perspective on that. But it's also okay to kind of be annoyed by that. Maybe things are outside of your control, and it's not that you need to put a lot of energy into that to be angry about it or something. But it's not a big deal to be happy when you've hit good profit for the month. It's fine. The only thing you need to be aware of is that if you do have a streak of losses or a streak of wins, that you don't start to alter your trading plan, or that you kind of look for the edges of what's acceptable or not in taking positions. You shouldn't let those emotions control the positions you take, the decisions you take. And that's all about management. That's not about, I'm a robot and I always do the same thing. It's the opposite. It's to be aware of what's going on and use that to your advantage, I think.
100%. You just touched on something very important, and you just reminded me of something. The number one reason why it is virtually impossible for people to be mechanical and to be a trading robot is that, and I'm sure you're on the same page with this, everything is connected to everything else. We'll touch on Rewired in a second, right? So if we know everything is connected, how you are in life will have a huge impact on how you are as a trader, because essentially it's you as a person. If you as an impulsive person outside of trading, you're likely going to be an impulsive person in trading. You have to decide whether you think it's a good thing or not, for example. So we know we are who we are, and that's reflected on how we trade. So the average person, I want to say 100% of people in the world do not live a robotic life. I don't care how routine oriented you are, people live a discretionary life in every facet. Just from just a simple thing. It could even be as a bar of soap. You could have 2 bars of soap, and that day you could have one that had coconut in it, and the other one you could have vanilla. And for whatever reason, you decided, I'm going to use the coconut today to wash my body. Like, as simple as that, we make discretionary decisions in all areas of life. So how would we possibly believe that we could be 100% mechanical, and as soon as we walk through the door, we just switch into a robot? As you mentioned, these algorithms, these bots, they don't last long for a reason. It's because there is movement. There are decisions being made all across. The probability of an algo or a robot trading successfully forever without faults is so unrealistic. If you just think about the universe and how many moving parts and war that happens and all kinds of things that are affecting the financial markets, and we believe we can just plug a robot in and go, yeah, go, it will never fail. And the funny thing is about mechanical systems that are too rigid, because when we say discretion, we could mean 3%, but that could be our edge. What if the discretion was your edge? What if that 2 or 3%? So you have the mechanics of how we trade the markets. Listen, we're waiting for highs to be broken or lows to be broken because we're looking for, the masses to be caught on the wrong side of the market. That's the mechanical side. Then it comes down to the entry. That's going to be, layers of context. So from that perspective, we're already doing it anyway, but we're also looking at the small, subtle details as to why we're going to take it in that moment. And that could be tiny candle shape, for example, where with these bot systems, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to be 4 months in drawdown until I realized that the bot's not working. Like, you would want to be able to look at the last 3-4 weeks, for example, where the market was squeezing and going sideways. Imagine if you took every single trade that met your plan. You'd have gone into minus 7%. You'd have lost your funded account. And someone else who's got experience would have just said, Cohen, you just needed to relax. But because you have the experience, you didn't make that mistake. So that's why I'm really against this idea of 100%. Like, there's so many reasons as to why it's not a good idea. And who do you know that's winning? Like, I don't know anyone. I can't list off hundreds of examples of traders that are 100% mechanical and have kept their accounts in funding and are now millionaires. I can't name you one. I don't know them, and they're not available.
Even then, it's discretionary, right? Because let's say you draw a few lines in a chart with some tops, like which of those tops are significant and which aren't. There's always a level of discretionary, or you're just a computer, but that's also not working because that's super unadaptable, like you just said. There's no way to continually be profitable with that. You need to make some adjustments along the line in that case, and that's pretty interesting. That's something I wanted to touch upon, because that's, I think, also the reason why everybody is trading the Falcon strategy with us, you and the coaches and everybody, but still everybody doesn't necessarily take the same positions, and not everybody has the same pairs on their watch list. So even though that we all trade the same system, there's certain small deviations according to who's trading the account, to who's making the decisions. And something I wanted to touch upon is that it's one of the key things in my journey was when I realized that there's a sort of a balance where you, at one point, let's say you just joined Falcon and you start going through all the content, and you slowly but surely get a hang of the strategy, and you try to mimic you Mark in the Sunday market breakdown. You try to get the same pairs on watch, and you try to analyze the same way, which is very, very helpful, especially if you're beginning. That's the way you learn. But on the other side of that, it's also really important to start trusting your own judgment at some point. There's going to be a time where you don't have the same pairs on watch as you and as Mark, and then there's a fine line between ego and doing your own thing, I believe. And at the same time, you need to have confidence in your ability to trade the markets. But on the other side, you need to be able to put your ego aside and learn from your mistakes and learn from people that are doing this way longer than you, that have more of the information. And there's a fine line between that. And I've slowly but surely realized that you've talked about this in the beginning. I'm not that active in the community. And I used to be very active in the trading analysis channel, but I don't do that a lot anymore because I just realized that I need to focus on my own thing. I need to trust in my own judgment because that's the only way I'm gonna continue to grow. And that doesn't mean I can learn from anything or that I don't watch the Sunday market breakdown anymore. Of course not. But it's one of the key moments in my trading journey that I needed to trust myself and to make my own mistakes, because that's the way you grow. I think that's very important. Yeah.
100%. This is why I always encourage people, they say, Mark, I've got 4 out of 6 on your watch list. And I've also got Aussie yen, for example. I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I just don't have it on watch.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's not about having the same. I mean, a beginner's intermediate, yes, you want to have as close as possible, but also on the other side of, don't be different for the sake of being different. Like if you genuinely see something, it might just be I chose CAD yen over euro yen, and they're pretty much a similar structure. But what someone will do is they overthink it and think, what there must be like a magical reason. No, I just chose CAD yen over euro yen. That's it. And if you got euro yen, it's absolutely okay. I would rather you pick euro yen, and if you do make a mistake, I'd rather you actually make the mistake.
Exactly,
But at least you trusted yourself to go, right, I had a reason for that, because you build the internal confidence is what you're talking about, which I think is so spot on.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why I kind of fell in love with doing ASR. And when I first joined Falcon, before that, I didn't even review my trades, but which is kind of a shame actually. But when I joined Falcon, I postponed it for a while, for like a few months, because it doesn't sound fun. Just put a magnifying glass on all the mistakes you've made, and that's not fun, and that's not. So I was a bit hesitant to start with it, but once I did, it really opened my eyes, because I believe the first month, I don't really remember the exact number, but it was like I had a discrepancy of 8% or something. And then I just sat there and I realized, but I have the same set of eyes, I have the same brain. So I'm looking at my trades the same way as I did in real time. So I know I have the ability to produce 8% more in the market if I do everything correctly. So that means that my skills are already there. I can identify a missed position. I can identify the things I'm making mistakes on, like maybe my timing is off or something. And yeah, so I keep my ASR, even now, I keep my ASR really simple. I just have my missed positions and my mismanaged positions. And that includes the trades I should have taken, or I shouldn't have taken. And it's just really easy. There comes this number out of that, and I'm like, at the end of the year, I do a big yearly ASR, which produces a lot of numbers that just show me, okay, I know how to trade well. If I use my knowledge about the markets that I know now, I don't have to do anything else. I can be up 80% of what I made this year. And that's just mind-blowing to me, because that just means that the rest of it is just learning how to execute and learning how to manage the emotions and what we talked about. So I really encourage everyone to do their ASR, because it's so valuable. It's, the trading is a bit strange in the sense that you can do everything right. You have the perfect setup in the perfect area, with the perfect strategy, with the perfect timing, with the perfect, everything is just insanely good. You do everything right, and still you get a loss. And it's the other way around as well. You can take a shitty trade with a hangover and not position size correctly and do everything wrong, and still that can run for 10% and make you like a yearly salary. It's just insane that you don't get feedback from the market in a direct sense. So that's one thing I really want to make clear to everybody. Like, you need ASR to learn about what you're doing right and wrong. So
spot on. And it's not uncommon for traders to not journal and to not do ASR even a year into their journey. So even though you took time with it, it's one of these things. I think every trader does it for some reason, even including myself. I mean, I didn't back test straight away. I'm not interested in that. I don't need to journal. I don't need to. Who wants to look at all their trades? It's like, I'm just not there yet. You'll use reasons as to why you're not doing it, but
Exactly.
like eventually when you do it, you start realizing, why did I not do this sooner? Because you get to learn quicker what you're doing wrong and right, and sometimes they're really small things.
Yeah, it's just, it makes everything so much clearer. Like when I do a yearly ASR, I can see, it's crazy. I can see my development with the strategy, like over the course of the year. I take different positions at the end of the year than at the start, and I journal differently. And it's really helpful to kind of have an overview of of what you've been doing and how much you've learned as well. It's not just because of zooming in on the mistakes you might have made, but it's also look at what you've done for the year and look how much you've grown for this past year. Because maybe the results aren't there yet, when you're just starting out, but if you see how much you've learned, that can really help to solidify that you are going to make it. Because that's the thing that got me here. I think if I would have to say one thing that has gotten me to this point to become a portfolio asset manager is that all those years ago, I've made a commitment to myself that I was going to make it work. When I started that first course, when I put money into that course, I decided, okay, if I'm going to put money into this, I'm deciding right now that I'm going to make this work. If it takes me 10 weeks or 10 years, that doesn't matter. I'll just go through and I'll make it work somehow. It doesn't really matter what comes on my path or how hard it's going to be. I'll just find a solution because I've promised myself that I'm going to make it work. And there's going to be setbacks, and some people, they are going to lose their entire account. And this is not easy, because otherwise everybody would be a trader. But if you can commit to becoming the trader, and you make that agreement with yourself, then you have something to hold on to and to structure that path.
There's two things you just reminded me of, which is really, really crucial. Yeah, the commitment part is absolutely key. And I think more traders, if they actually consciously were aware whether they're committed or not, like I've said, being interested in something versus committed is two different things. Mm-hmm. But you've got to look at edge. I mentioned this in a midweek review or something recently in content about comparison is the thief of all joy. If you compare yourself to another trader, not a good idea. But comparing yourself to industry standard, that's actually good to just see where you match up. And what you look at is edges. We're looking for technical edges and we're looking for psychological edges. Well, most people are looking for a technical edge. They're not even aware of a psychological edge, but we'll get to that. The other part is understanding where you are different and where the industry standard is. So if you look at something like podcasts, I believe there is some sort of statistic where, most people don't get past episode 7 or something really ridiculous, where you'd think, imagine someone starts a podcast and they can't get past 7. So all you have to do is do 8 episodes and you're already part of a very narrow percentage, so it's quite easy to break through that.
Exactly, yeah.
Now, when you look at trading, most people don't last a couple of years. So you could be someone who's, let's say, in there for 3 years and they've not made money yet. They're not consistent. They know a lot. They're not horrible at trading, but they've just not really seen the kind of results that maybe they expect. Mm-hmm. Already, you give yourself another edge. It's not a technical edge. It's not a psychological edge. It's a committed edge. You're already more committed than 99% of people that lose just by doing it longer, which is crazy. And this is where, when people do not compare what the average trader is like versus where they're at, they'll be very disheartened because they'll go, I'm at break even. I've been doing the break even dance for 6 months. I'm a terrible trader. No, you're not. Average traders down minus 15%. They can't even get to break even and you're unhappy about it. Perspective has to come in when we're dealing with one of the most difficult industries that there is to perform. And you've got to work on yourself. You've got to work on so many other facets. I think that's when comparison comes in, because you can use it as confidence. Like, right, so if I know the average person will give up after 2 years, well, then all I need to do is just not give up. And sometimes that's the best advice for me and the coaches. Like, there's not always like a crazy technical advice. All it is Just listen to my content for another 6 months and then tell me that you've not progressed. Because all you need to do is sometimes stick at it a bit longer, even though it's the same thing, it's just a bit more experience, but it's the correct type of experience. And then suddenly people wake up, they're like, do you know what? You was right. And like 3 months will pass. I'll be like, what did you do different? Have I told you anything different? Have I said anything different? No, it's the same message. But so how have you clicked? I don't know. Exactly. Because there isn't always like this magic science to it. And there's so many traders, they're just impatient. And the best thing they could do is just wait a bit longer, but they're just not willing to because they want it now, and not willing to wait.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's some good advice. Just to get a different perspective on where you are right now in your journey. Yeah. Yeah. And I think what you said, people want it now. And yeah, I would say I'm a very typical guy. I don't really see myself as the stereotypical trader personality per se. But even with me, it took me a while, but I'm an asset manager now. So that just goes to show that even if you don't really have the, if you don't have the skills, if you don't have the mindset, that's all things that you can work on. But you have to make the decision to go for it, to really commit and to make it work. Because then even when those setbacks hit, you always come back to, okay, this is my path, and it doesn't really matter even if you blow up an account, or even if you have to go back to square one, it doesn't really matter because you've learned along the way. And yeah, you're closer than, this is something that you say a lot, and that's really stuck with me. You're closer than you think. And I'm just really excited for what lies ahead as well.
Yeah, embrace it. Just embrace it. You've done the right things. You mentioned something which I think is really important. You said you can almost see your curve of self-development of when you improve. The correlation. I think we're going to have to create this graph now because it's so accurate. We can literally see people's equity curve and when they go through Rewired. I could pinpoint the graph. I could put them next to each other and see when they develop the self-awareness, or when they've gone through a really down period and they finally realize, maybe I should probably go through something like Rewired. Maybe, what Mark and the coaches have been saying for a long time, the mindset's probably a really important thing. They work on their identity and you just see the shift go up, 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 and up. And it's so close to that. It's so fascinating to see. Any tips on how you've gone through the Rewired program to anyone else looking to go through it, that is going through it right now? Obviously, it's different for everyone. Is there anything that sticks out to you that you feel like that you resonated with more, or that you feel like you need to work on more than another module?
So I'm using the flashcards now, which is good because I tend to, when I have a good morning, for example, sometimes in the afternoon it can slip up a bit. So I use the flashcards a lot. But yeah, just use the 3-step process. I use the 3-step process for a lot of material, not just Falcon, but also other things that really help to kind of focus in on what the important parts of a lesson are for you. So you can really dial in the things that you need to remember. So that's something I definitely advise. And just, take it at your own pace. There's a lot of valuable content in there. So it's okay to take it slow. And, you can always go back and do it a few times. So, yeah. That's it.
Love it. Yeah.
I love the Rewired stuff, man. It's just such a good set of exercises and skills. And it's just good to kind of reset. And one thing I do now every morning is I have a little notepad. I just turn on a timer for 3 minutes and just write down what exactly makes me feel good and what I want. What I want. And that can be like really short-term things, like I want some coffee, or it could be like really big things, like I want a mansion by a lake or whatever it might be. And that's just really good to kind of ground that sense of what I want to do with my life and I want to accomplish right away in the morning. So yeah, I just love those kinds of exercises from the content. Yeah,
love that.
Really helped a lot. Yeah.
Well, the way you're gonna keep going through it, which is, I mean, you've got a very teachable personality, which I really respect, and it's important when you want to grow. From the situation you went through of the deception, that you're going through the flashcards now, I firmly believe it's going to be one of the biggest breakthroughs to the next levels, because you're going to be so much more centered and grounded, and that deliberateness will just be so within you that, right, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. This is something I tell myself a lot. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, because what that says unconsciously, I mean, the brain is such a fascinating thing. It's why I created Rewired in the first place, and I've spent very many years studying it. But the important stuff that's actually going to help you as a trader, not just left brain, right brain, and all these different things, but more so, if someone tells themselves that every single day I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, if you're trying to instill confidence, unconsciously you tell yourself I'm on the right track. Unconsciously you tell yourself that everything that you do that has got you to this point is on purpose. So then that thought that comes in of, I'm lucky, or was this by accident, that doesn't really exist. For me anyway, that doesn't really exist. So it's one of my favorite things to tell myself when I just look around, I look at my achievements, and I'll just go, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, which has told me I've done this like on purpose. And I think that will help you tremendously as well. I have 2 closing questions for you, which this is actually something I've never asked before, and I think will be really, really helpful. First question is, any advice, any thoughts that you would give to the Falcon community? I know you've worked in the shadow, just anything that comes to mind that you think will be helpful for them, someone who's maybe aspiring to think, yeah, I want to be funded, or I want to be in Cohen's position.
Well, yeah, I saw this question coming, obviously. I think the main thing is, like I said, you have to commit. So just if you're unsure, if you maybe have some doubts, if you are going to be in my position and you're just starting out, just take out a piece of paper and write, I'm going to be a portfolio asset manager. And that's the agreement you make them with yourself. I think that's the most important thing, because I can sit here and give advice about what helped me, but that might not be the same things that help somebody else with a different personality, right? Because I do all the usual stuff, I eat healthy. I've been going to the gym since October. So really, that has helped tremendously with my mental state as well. So it's been amazing. And for example, cold showers, I do all the usual things. Like, I really like cold showers. Well, I don't like them, but they've really helped, because I've talked to a friend about this recently. And he just looked at me like I was crazy. Like, why do you stand why do you take a cold shower in the morning? You don't have to, And I explained to him, like, it's not fun. It's not fun to stand there shivering for a few minutes. And, I don't, it's not about that. It's when I'm standing there, I'm teaching myself that it's okay to be uncomfortable. And that's the simplest way I can explain it, because when I'm scaling up in a few months, I'm trading larger capital, and maybe I take a position and I can't take the risk off yet. I just have to be patient and let the market do its thing and move away from my entry. There might be like a yearly salary at risk, and it's like we just talked about, like with the emotions, it's just delusional if you think that's not going to affect you in any way or form. So that's going to be uncomfortable. So by just standing under the cold shower every morning, I'm just teaching myself that it's okay to be uncomfortable. It's not the end of the world. It's not like I have to take some kind of action or something. I just accept that it's uncomfortable. And it's such a simple thing, but you don't really realize that something like that can really influence the decisions you're making in the market, which at first glance you wouldn't really expect it, right? How is taking a cold shower going to help you analyze the markets or something? But so that's, for me, that's one of the things that helped me tremendously. But there might be different things that when you're just starting out that you need to do for the listeners. And the thing is, if you commit to becoming the trader, then those answers, those questions and those answers will kind of make themselves available to you, because you run into, okay, I don't have enough discipline, for example. And then you have to work on that. So you might just practice going to the gym, or you might need a better schedule for the morning to kind of train yourself to be more disciplined. Like, those answers all come to you when you decide just to go for it. So you have to commit. That's kind of the main thing I'm trying to explain in this whole podcast, is that would be my number one advice. So just decide that you're going to do it, because you will, and then all the answers will come.
Yeah, brilliant advice, Cohen. I absolutely love that. And I fully understand exactly the point that you're getting across. And I think it's spot on. The commitment part, which I'm glad you've touched on more, is beautiful, because people have to commit. What you reminded me of, I mean, I love the cold showers as well. We need the graph of that. What is the graph of successful traders and cold showers? I'm going to guess it's quite high.
The correlation, yeah.
It's going to be a high correlation there. And I think it's because of what you just said. It's okay to be uncomfortable, and it's what you're training your mind to do in the most simple things. I mean, the same discipline that you have for that cold shower is the same discipline to say no to a crappy trade. You know, because you know that you're in charge of your mind, and you're not going to allow emotions to dictate that. So someone won't make the connection, but again, everything's connected to everything else. That's true. That's something we can bank on, that how you are is how you're going to be in pretty much every scenario. This is a question, Cohen, I've not asked someone in the podcast that I believe in this sort of detail, but I'm curious for you. Everyone's different. I remember why I got involved in trading and my vision of what I wanted out of it, which I don't think is the usual answer, because I understood there was money at hand. But to me, it was much more simple things than that. It was, like being able to go and, I mean, I'm not getting my haircut at the moment, I'm growing it, but just being able to go get my haircut, for example, at a time, 11 a.m. on a Tuesday, or being able to go shopping if I really wanted to without having to sit in traffic, because I can just decide Wednesday at 12 p.m. I want to go to the shopping mall because I want to get a new pair of trainers. Whatever it is, it was actually more the simple things that I was excited about. Yeah. For you, what does a day in a life look like? Let's say you hit your golden number, you achieved the account size that you like, and you're full-time, whether it's just trading and you have another business, but just a day on your own terms. What does that look like for you? Because I think more traders, I want them to do exactly what you're going to tell us. I want them to think about that as well.
So this is maybe this, yeah. It's just like you said. It's also the little things. That it's the big things. Like if I want to go to Paris, for a few days, that you have the freedom to do that. That's kind of my main goal of why I'm trading. It's to be self-sufficient, and just to make my own planning, and to just be that guy that can just, I'll come and visit you when you're on a holiday, or when you're traveling in Asia, because I can. That's for me the main reason why I'm trading. But it's also the little things, like, for example, doing groceries on a Tuesday morning. It's just, I don't know. It's just so crazy to me that, like, if you do something you love, then it's all worth it, of course. But for me, it's so crazy that in this day and age, everybody goes to work on their at the same time, and everybody, the rush hour. That's just so not my thing. It's just not really. I can't really explain it in easy terms. It's like I don't really fit in that mold. So I think that's one of the reasons trading fits me so well, because you have to be a bit flexible, which I think I am, but also, yeah, it's like a tool that provides me that lifestyle that I'm looking for, right? So, yeah, I'm just planning on traveling later on in the year if I'm to the next level. Mm-hmm. I'm planning on doing some traveling at the end of the year after the summer. I'm gonna stay in the sort of my time zone for now. So Spain, Portugal, maybe drive around a bit. And then, later on. So music is my big thing. So I want to build a recording studio.
Nice.
I can see how I'm going to build that and everything, but I'm not really sure yet if that's going to stay kind of a personal thing, or if that's going to be like a commercial entity where I can record bands and everything. But that's going to be a whole new set of challenges. So I'm really looking forward to that as well. Looking forward to the future. Yeah, it's just, I want to start a family at one point, house, near some water with a big tree in the garden and goats.
Have to have goats.
You gotta have goats. Something like that, yeah. I can see it happening. And sort of my main goal for the coming years. So for the last couple of years, my main goal was to trade 7 figures before I'm 40. Mm-hmm. I'm 37 now, so I'm a bit older than the average Falcon student, but there's plenty of time to reach that next level of 7 figures. So that's definitely going to happen.
Love that. Well, yeah, things can scale up very quickly, as you know, like you're closer than you think. And once you've got it in place, that's a beautiful vision. And I think that, honestly, we've spoken about correlation a lot. Cold showers, Rewired, or self-development. I think there's a high correlation towards traders that want to trade for freedom tend to succeed quicker as well. Mm-hmm. I bet you that's a high correlation.
Yeah, that's also strange because I think everybody gets into trading for the same reason, to make some cash, right? But yeah, I've just noticed along the way that I've had the pictures of the McLarens and stuff on my wall, and I've just noticed that it's super interesting to me, but it's not something that I'm so passionate about that it keeps me going. It's not a big enough why for me to drive a sports car, right? Because that's fun for a while, but it's not like the main thing why I'm doing this. The main thing is that I want to live life on my own terms and be free to do my own thing and to provide for my family if I get a family. And
I think those emotions are far stronger. And what I want everybody to take from this is, again, going back to your why. Like, you've got to know why you're doing it. And if you have too many smoke screens, and sometimes they can be cars, they can be watches, they can be houses, like, you've got to dig deep into, like, what would that be like? And I want you to all think about that, because the clearer you are on that, the more excited you'll be. The more excited you'll be every day, because if you can get excited, you know what I used to do? When I was on a plane and I was in economy class, I would literally think of moments like, do you know what? For me, I would just be very, very excited at the thought of knowing that once I'm in a position, I'm trading enough money, I can just go business class, just to not have, like, my knees wedged up into this. It wasn't always about, like, the huge things. It was just, if I want to, I can. If I want to travel over here, I can. If I want to do this, if I want to decide that I want more, I don't want to look at the bill when I'm looking at a restaurant, or I don't want to be looking at how much these tomatoes are because they're organic instead of a different, like little simple things like that, to just have the freedom of, you're just in a position to do that now.
That's exactly what I'm aiming for. That, for me, that's luxury, to not worry about, have to worry about that stuff. It's just like, my ultimate goal. And then we'll see from there, because I know how this goes. When I'm trading 7 figures, there's going to be a next goal that I want to achieve.
There'll be a new mountain. You're going to go from 1 studio to 25 studios. So we'll see. But Cohen, thank you so much for taking the time to jump on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
And giving a really raw, transparent view on, look, not the finished article, and not from a position of lack of self-worth, but more of just honesty that, look, these emotions are going to come. And I think that's going to give a lot of traders a tremendous amount of confidence that, right, I'm okay where I am and I can get to the next stage without being perfect. Because I do believe people do that with their funding assessments as well. If they don't succeed and they fail, they tell themselves the reason why they failed is because they're not the finished article, which then
that's not how it
creates
works.
Self-sabotage every single time, because then you believe that there's no chance for you to get to, let's say, 40K or 60K without being perfect. And that's not the case.
And at the end, then the same thing is going to happen what happened with me, all right? Because then when you do eventually get past the assessment, then you're kind of wronged, because you still feel all those emotions. You still not feel like you're the complete package, and then you have the next level and the next. It's just, that's not really how it works. You need to look at yourself as a work in progress, and that's fine. It's fine to always be learning and always be progressing. And and I just wanted to say thank you for creating Falcon. Such an amazing place with so many great people as well. It's just become this beast now over the years, which is really cool to see how it developed. And just your drive and your vision made it such a good place to learn and to grow.
I appreciate that. I appreciate it. Well, it's going to get bigger and bigger. And as you know, for me, it's more about the connection with the people in the community like yourself. And I mean, we've met in Amsterdam and we'll meet again. And lots of other things are going to happen. But it's getting closer and closer towards that bigger vision where I genuinely feel Falcon is like a family. That's why I never wanted to lose touch with just everything that we're doing, because if anything, I actually get more involved. It's the reason why we've created these extra things like the property fund and all that type of stuff, is because I want to be more involved, not from a nosy or intrusive point of view. I mean, people are happy to invest their money wherever they want, but if I can be more of a part of that, that's what I've always wanted, to at least provide the option. If you want to do this, right, we can help you out with that, because I mean, trading's a lonely journey, and if you think just join a community will just make you not lonely. It doesn't work like that. Like, you've got to want to be involved, and firstly prioritize yourself, like get to the trading level you want to get to, and then participate and get more involved as and when you see fit. And I think that's the exciting thing about the project. So pleasure to have people like yourself that are committed. Commitment is the word.
Commitment. Yeah, I'm really excited to see what the coming years are going to bring as well. I think we're going to be smashing some presumptions of certain people as well, of what's achievable with the community.
100%.
It's I'm really excited for the future, and can't wait to meet everybody. And
likewise. Well, thank you, Cohen. I'm excited for people to hear this podcast. They're going to learn a ton. Have an incredible day your end, and I'm looking forward to catching up in person soon.
Yeah, you too, man. Have a good day.
Appreciate it, man.
See you soon.
Bye bye.